one of the things that I come from is a background of sort of science and medicine. And so the neuroscience behind like mindfulness and meditation is really it's really good for me to read some of the studies, what happens to the brain with meditation or mindfulness. And there's a couple sayings that I use fairly frequently. I haven't used very much recently, but I do use fairly frequently because when you do start talking about mindfulness or meditation, you do start talking about rewiring your brain. You literally creating new connections in your brain, and in doing so, you are rewiring different parts of the brain. You are making different parts of the brain be able to communicate with each other. And usually that is seen as a positive thing when one has a state of, let's say, understanding, or a state of compassion, or a state of sort of connection to the universe at large, that there's more areas of the brain that are actually communicating with each other, as opposed to when we are in like a fear or anger cycle. When people have done studies, they've seen, specific areas of the brain be lit up. And when the brain is more integrated, there's a more sort of holistic response of electrical activity throughout the whole brain. And so, in terms of how we bring this together, there's a lot of neuroscience that's involved in this, that's in the background. Every single time you sit down to do practice, for instance, you are activating little parts of the brain. And when you activate those parts of the brain, you're sort of telling yourself that those parts of the brain are important. And so some of the things that we talk about, especially with pain or anxiety or depression, are statements such as, neurons that wire together, fire together, so that there's coupling. If you bring in one neuron, let's say, that is perceiving pain, and another neuron, let's say, that's perceiving the emotion that might be associated with that, like depression or anxiety. If we feel the pain and the depression simultaneously, that if those two neurons are firing, then they're going to start wiring together. So neurons that wire together or fire together, wire together, which means that you can feel one. You might feel sad or depressed and actually trigger your pain, or feel your pain and trigger emotions of sadness and depression. And so a lot of the therapies, even things like hypnosis, virtual reality, meditation, or mindfulness, what they try to do is, especially with mindfulness, is show you, the mind, how these things are coupled. That it was nobody's fault. This is just how the brain sort of likes to group things together. But that how we can actually start to uncouple things that have been coupled over time. Noticing, for instance, a sensation prior to the interpretation of pain, or noticing a sensation prior to an emotion that arises, and sort of understanding the triggering that's occurring in the brain. Like, oh, I just had that sensation, and that sensation was perceived by my brain, and my brain gave me this experience of whatever it is, of anxiety, panic, fear, sadness, joy, love, whatever it might be. So there's a couple. So when you're thinking about mindfulness, there's a few other sort of neuroscience / neural plasticity adages that I'd like to sort of throw out there and have you think about. One is repeated states become enduring traits. Repeated states become enduring traits. So just ask yourself, right? What is your repeated state? And what last year, for instance, was there a repeated state that came up? Yesterday, was there a repeated state that came up? Last month, was there, if you were to sort of, do your top 10 most repeated states list, it's like the Billboard, it's like the top 10 musicals of last week. What were your top 10 musicals? What were the songs that were repeated in your head over and over and over again? Not necessarily songs, but when I say songs, what state was repeated? What state came up? And if that state did come up, was it beneficial to you or harmful? If it was harmful to you, did you do anything to try to shift it? Did you do anything? You could notice it. Then did you do anything to try to shift it? And this took me a while to get into, because at first I was just, I'm just going to notice my state. I'm just going to notice my state. Notice what state I'm in, but not direct it. Not try to sort of have a part in creating a state. And then I started recognizing that, we actually have the ability to try to correct or to try to change our states. We can notice them. I'm noticing sadness, anger, anxiety, whatever it might be. Previously, 5 or 6 years ago, I'd be more in the simply notice, not doing. And then I started recognizing that, we can actually sort of help guide our mind in the types of thoughts or the types of activities or the types of emotions that are generated. Okay. So repeated states become enduring traits. Why? Because the brain and the mind learn through repetition, right? Repetition, repetition, repetition. So if you're repeating a certain state of mind, when that is repeated, that is what is going to be reinforced in your nervous system. So ask yourself, right? Is this harmful or helpful? Is it beneficial to me? Is this state beneficial to me or not? If it is, you can continue going. Maybe anger does have a benefit because you're going, it's making you, let's say, start a business to help world hunger or something like that. And so you're saying, hey, I'm recognizing I'm angry and I'm using this to fuel an energy inside of me. Okay. So repeated states become enduring traits. What are the enduring traits that you are cultivating? What are the traits that you are actively cultivating right now? And this isn't something where it's like, I'm going to start practicing this and then tomorrow I'm going to notice. Now you may notice the difference. I definitely did. But it's not huge, right? For me, the huge differences started really occurring after I put these into practice on a regular basis. And after I started, where you started creating these repeated states. Well, how would you do it? Sometimes you do feel like you're fighting with the other part of your mind. Let's say maybe there was depression and anxiety. It's like, you know what? I'm going to try a little bit of this. And the part of you that may go into a depressed, anxious place, sort of like, no, I'm going to, this is me, or whatever. And you kind of feel that battle inside. You go, well, you know what? I get that. And we've been doing this for 35 years now, and it's just not working. It's just not working anymore. Maybe there's something more interesting to choose to pay attention to. That's where we bring in this capacity of being able to direct our attention. Right? We've talked about this a lot. How do you direct your attention? Where are you placing your attention in every moment of the day? Are you choosing where to place your attention, or are you sort of Are you allowing your attention to be placed? Oh, there's another ad. There's a sweet Ferrari going down the street, right? There's a dog walking down the street that I want, whatever it is, right? There's a fancy purse, nice clothes. And you were constantly being bombarded by advertisements, by clickbait on the web, et cetera, et cetera. And so our attention is actually being taken from us as opposed to us choosing where to place it. Okay, so that's where the other saying comes from, which is where attention goes, neuronal firing flows. All right, so imagine where you place your attention, you're actually firing neurons. It's as simple as that. What are the neurons that you want to fire? Because the neurons that you fire, the more repetition that those neurons get, guess what you're doing? Creating a memory. That's how we remember things. We do it over and over again, right? If I send you all a poem and say, here, memorize this poem by Tuesday, you have to read the poem and sit there and read it and sit there and read it and sit there and read it. Close your eyes and repeat it and repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. And the next thing you know, 4 days later, you're like, hey, I got that poem down by memory because you repeated it, right? That's the neuronal firing. Where your attention is actually going, you're firing neurons in that direction. And where you fire neurons, have you guys ever seen those images online of the neurons that send out these they send out the little axons or dendrites and they're trying to find a connection, right? And they're looking and then all of a sudden it's like they're sending out all these little projections and then they find a source to connect to and then they connect and then all of a sudden you see the neuron, it builds a nice little cable. All right, so where attention goes, neuronal firing flows and neuronal connections grow. All right, so what are the neuronal connections that you want to make in your brain based on where your attention is going? Based on where your attention is going. People don't realize it, but all the fear, all the panic, all the scaremongering that's occurring is rewiring our brain. It's literally rewiring our brain. Why? Because there's that constant repetition. Our attention goes there, our attention goes there, our attention goes there. And that's how, if you're choosing to place your attention there, that's how you're choosing to be wired. Right? So repeated states become enduring traits. Where attention goes, neuronal firing flows and neuronal connections grow. All right. And then this becomes more complex. It gets into the neuronal connection, but functional neuronal activation. So what neurons are you choosing to activate leads to structural neuronal connections, where you are literally with where you're placing your attention or what you're choosing to repeat or what state you are choosing to bring into your life is creating neuronal firing, which is then creating neuronal connections, functional neuronal connections in your brain. If you're not putting your mind, if you don't feel like you are putting your mind to use, like, hey, I'm really using my mind to make the best for me, it's time to start to put your mind to work for you. Not to be a slave of your mind, but to actually use your mind and the power that it has for it. All right. And so one of the practices that I started doing that we've done here in the past, there's a little bit of a different spin on it today, is a bit of a more active practice. Again, there's the more sit back, right, and just perceive, maybe sense the sensations of the breath as they come and go, whatever it might be, perceiving a thought as it emerges. And then there's more active practices like repeating a word or phrase to yourself. You love, and all you do is you repeat that word, right? Love. There's a bit more active, and that engages the mind a little bit. And these are good practices to help you enter the realm of mindfulness, especially if you have a tendency of being a thinker. So for me, this was a really good practice to learn early on, which is anything in the realm of loving kindness. Why? Because who doesn't want to be kind and loving? Who doesn't want loving kindness towards them? It's like, hey, I'm going to go to the shopping center and hope that there's anger and hatred directed towards me. So not only is this sort of fostering positive emotions in ourselves, sort of creating repeated states, and this can be something that you can do both in what we call the formal and informal practice, which is this can be something that you can do like we're going to do today, where we take 15 minutes out of our day, 20 minutes out of our day, and we do this practice. But it can also be something where you're falling asleep and you're having a difficult time falling asleep, and you practice loving kindness. You're going for a walk with your dog and you practice loving kindness while you're holding your dog. And then you see a random stranger walking by you, and here you are practicing loving kindness, and you smile at them and they go, "What drug is that person taking?" You're like, "Yeah, it's my medicine. It's called loving kindness." And this will happen. I can't guarantee it, but it will happen. All right. The drug is called loving kindness. You can buy it at your own CVS or Rite Aid. No, it's within you. It's within you. It's within everyone. Sometimes, though, we have to foster it. We sort of have to cultivate it and nurture it. And this is what I learned is that it can take a little bit of nurturance, and so that's what we're going to do today. This was popularized by a woman by the name of Sharon Salzberg. She's quite an incredible woman who has written many books on loving kindness, started a few meditation societies here in the United States. If you're interested in any of her books or stories, she's a really incredible woman. And she's popularized it and teaches it, and then various other teachers have changed it or used it in different realms. Essentially, from the practice of mindfulness, where mindfulness is paying attention on purpose to something, the present moment, you are choosing what you are paying attention to, and in this practice, you are paying attention to an intention of loving kindness. Now, there are a few populations of people that you can direct loving kindness to, and those include yourself, your best friends, your loved ones, the people that you are always getting along with. These can include somebody that you totally neutral about. These can include your worst enemies. People that you've gotten into disagreements about, people who you have gotten into an argument about, and the entire universe. Some people find it difficult to direct loving kindness to themselves. And so in today's practice, we'll start with directing it to others, and then we'll turn it on ourselves and see how that feels as a sensation. What does that feel like? Right? I have written down here many loving intentions that you can repeat to yourself. So again, this is more of an active mental activity where you're repeating one or many of these, whatever comes to mind. But as your mind wanders, for instance, let's say I am thinking about my friend and my mind starts to wander and I go, well, I really wonder how they're doing. Maybe I should call them up and, we go to lunch sometime, or I'm thinking about, an enemy and going like, man, I can't believe I'm practicing loving kindness for this guy. This guy deserves to be in jail. Whatever it is, there's judgments that come up, et cetera, et cetera. You simply notice those judgments, notice whatever comes up, notice even planning a lunch with your best friend or whatever, and then redirecting it back to your intention. So the purpose is, where's the focus and concentration come from? The focus and concentration comes from the repetition of your loving kindness phrase. That's the focus. As your mind wanders, and you stop repeating it, or you're not really paying attention to repeating it, then you come back to the repetition of the loving kindness, right? And it's a simple intention. You're essentially opening your heart and you're sending an intention of loving kindness. Okay. Here are a few things that I've written down. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. May you live in safety. May you live with peace and joy. And again, this is me, you. May I live with physical happiness. May I have good health. May I live with ease. May I not suffer. May I be well. Whatever phrase comes to you that is authentic, may I live in gratitude. May you live in gratitude. May you live in abundance. May you be joyful. May you be free from suffering. May you be happy. May you live at ease. Whatever it is that comes up for you. All right. That's going to be our practice today. And it can be very powerful. Be very powerful. Remember, this is where we actually can start to direct those repeated states where you might feel like you're in the dumps, and all of a sudden you might recall this practice and say, I'm gonna practice some loving kindness. Or maybe you got into an argument with a friend and you say, I'm going to go into a loving kindness practice. First, I do it for myself, family members, people who I love, and then you get to the person who you had a disagreement with. You send them loving kindness and you see what emerges. You may notice certain emotions emerging, and you simply allow them to emerge as they do. And sometimes you might notice tears. Maybe there's a softening. Maybe there's even a tensing of your body. So like, I can't imagine sending loving kindness to the guy who I just got into an argument with, for instance. And you notice what occurs. Again, if any emotion gets too overwhelming, come back to your breath, come back to your resource, wherever you feel like you can place your attention, where you feel safe, where you do feel loving kindness for yourself, right? So let's go into our practice. So let's find a comfortable position. A position you will feel relaxed yet alert. Closing your eyes. If you feel comfortable closing your eyes. If not, having a soft downward gaze. Taking a few deep breaths, 2 or 3 deep breaths, and with each deep breath, seeing if you can direct your breath to any area of tension you notice in your body. And with each exhale, releasing that tension, calming the mind, feeling the support from whatever surface you are sitting or lying on. And allowing your body to be fully supported. And just getting a sense of your present moment. What is coming up for you right now? You have a lot of thoughts running through your mind. Do you feel calm and relaxed or tense? Just simply noticing your present moment. And if there are any areas of tension, see if you can move your body, adjust your position. And now, bring to mind and picture yourself. Think of a person you have a good relationship with, a person you love, where your relationship is easy, with no conflict. As you bring this person to mind, notice what occurs in your body. Do you feel warm? Is there an opening in your heart? Are there any emotions of love? Maybe spontaneous well-wishing? And now, using some focused intention, sending this person, as you're imagining them in your mind, intentions of loving kindness. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be free from suffering. Directing these phrases of loving kindness as you imagine this person who you have a loving relationship with. Repeating these phrases softly and silently in your mind. Directing loving kindness to them. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be safe and protected. May you be well in body and mind, strong and healed. May you be happy. If you wish to include another person who you are having a good relationship with, bring that person into your mind's eye. And imagine sending loving kindness to them as well. May you be happy. May you be well. May you live with ease and peace. And now imagine that this loved one is looking back at you. They see you with the same loving eyes, reflecting the same care and kindness that you have offered to them. They look back at you and want you to be well and safe and happy and strong. Picture or imagine them wishing these for you as you wished for them. They are wishing it back to you with the same loving intention. May you too be safe. May you too be happy. May you too be filled with loving kindness. And open up and receive this gift of loving kindness that grows as you're cultivating a garden, learning to plant seeds, choosing the states you wish to live in. If you wish, you can even put a hand on your heart or on your chest or your abdomen and recite these caring intentions coming from the universe. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be happy. May I be safe and protected. May I be well in my body and mind, strong and healed. Feeling the loving kindness intentions, offering it back to yourself. And whatever comes up for you, holding it with kindness. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I live in peace. Repeating these intentions of loving kindness for yourself. And for this practice, choosing to direct your attention to loving kindness. And as your mind wanders, redirecting your mind back to your phrases of intention. Just noticing what arises for you as you direct loving kindness to yourself. And now bringing your attention to your body and to your breath. And just noticing, can you be with the present moment experience with loving kindness? Can you be open to your own experience with safety and ease? And as we bring this meditation to a close, simply seeing if you can include loving kindness practice into your everyday life. Can it be a repeated state that you learn to practice that creates an enduring trait? And now taking 2 or 3 deep breaths, opening your eyes if your eyes were closed, reorienting yourself to your room and surroundings. And just taking a moment to reflect on your practice, to see how that was for you.